Hello again. It's Dr. Cindy coming to you with this week's mental health moment. Over the past several videos, I've been explaining how our self concept and our self worth develop from childhood experiences, the ways in which this affects our interactions with others in adulthood, and strategies for attending to our own emotional sensitivities. The hope is to help you learn to manage reactions to current situations better and also to heal deeper emotional wounds and cognitive distortions that may still cause you to perceive yourself as being unworthy, inadequate, or unlovable. Now, with all of this emphasis on self care, does this mean we shouldn't reach out to others when we are struggling? Absolutely not. But remember that the mental template about ourselves is overly focused on external validation and approval, such that we essentially place our sense of self esteem and emotional well being in the hands of others. If we think they accept, like, and approve of us, we feel generally okay about ourselves. If we think they don't accept, like, and approve of us, we feel inadequate or insecure. So, seeking relief from other people during times of emotional distress can inadvertently reinforce the old mindset that our value and worth comes from others. Additionally, if we think relief from difficult feelings is only available outside of us, well, that leaves us pretty stuck whenever no one is accessible. The comfort and support we receive from others is like what sun and rain do for a flower. Those outside elements do help plants grow, but the healthiest ones are rooted in rich soil, and the better the soil, the more a plant will thrive, even when sunshine and water are in short supply. Similarly, by regularly tending to our own emotions with comfort and compassion, we nourish ourselves in a way that can enable us to flourish even through the most adverse of conditions. Then the support we get from others isn't something we seek out in desperation and feel lost and alone without, but something that enhances our own internal work and enables us to enjoy and appreciate the connection that comes from someone being there for us. So, I'm going to talk some more today about continuing to provide healing and resolution to past experiences that have caused you pain. Now, I want to add here that these conversations are not intended to be a substitute for working directly with a mental health professional to help you process personal challenges. Many people have been subjected to very traumatic events and interactions in their lives, and it can be beneficial to have a therapist to support you through addressing those. And I have a rather liberal definition of the word trauma here. Trauma can simply be the very worst thing that ever happened to you, or anything that still causes you a lot of pain. Two people can have the same experience and it may register as being traumatic for one, yet not for the other. I find that one barrier to people seeking help for themselves is thinking that they haven't gone through enough to merit being in therapy. Additionally, I often hear people compare their own experiences to the traumas and tragedies of others and then decide that because what they experienced wasn't as bad as what some other people have gone through, then they should somehow not feel bad at all. But pain is pain, whether it is physical or emotional. When you stub your toe, you don't say to yourself, well, that shouldn't hurt because I didn't break it, I only stubbed it. Or, well, this toe doesn't bother me or shouldn't anyway because my friend broke her ankle. That sounds pretty ridiculous, right? Yet we often minimize and dismiss our emotional experiences as if we have to qualify for mental health services or any other type of support by meeting a particular level of distress that we think is enough to deserve that. We all deserve empathy, compassion, caring, concern, and support for anything and everything that we might be going through. We deserve it from ourselves, from our friends and loved ones, and even, yes, from mental health professionals. Speaking as one of those professionals, I appreciate whenever someone has the courage to reach out for assistance, no matter what the reason. And I find I can be much more helpful and effective when people come to me before they reach a crisis point. So, in my view, the only qualification anyone needs for being in therapy is a willingness to participate in it. So, let's talk some more about the work of directly connecting to your own emotional experiences, exploring where in your history those painful feelings are coming from, and providing care, compassion, and comfort to the younger version of you that went through that difficult time. As I said in the last video, the child who went through those challenging interactions and events is still back there in your past, feeling confused and neglected and unloved and unlovable. Those younger versions of yourself become frozen in time, encapsulated within their painful experiences. And that child doesn't want to live in that experience any more than you do. Only you can rescue the little boy or girl or teenager, again, by doing the work of connecting to the emotion and providing the comfort and compassion that was not given at the time. Depending on the particular experience and how much this connects to similar experiences and to your core emotional wound, you may find yourself revisiting a memory many times. This is completely natural and necessary. The more hurt that is attached to it, the more time it might take to heal. All healing is a process, so please try to be patient with that process. If something still hurts, that doesn't mean what you're doing isn't working. It just means it's a particularly sore area that needs extra attention in TLC. Also, remember that as far as the brain is concerned, anything we are focusing on, whether from the past, present, or future, is happening in real time. So it will automatically want to get involved with whatever is causing us pain. It views pain as a problem to solve. So it tries to intervene with its typical approach to all problems, which is to quickly assess and address what's the problem, who's to blame, how do we make it go away. Because of its role in our survival, our brain really likes to be in charge, and whenever it detects trouble, it wants to swoop in and take over. It believes it is protecting us by doing this, and to be fair, we really have given it a lot of power over the years, not realizing that we need to take a different approach to internal emotional experiences than we do to concrete external problems. So you may have to tell your brain to stand down, that you're all set and are taking care of it. If it persists, you can thank it for wanting to help and reassure it that everything is okay. Now, this might sound strange, but we are in conversation with our brains all the time. It's an ongoing inner dialogue that we often aren't even aware of. So we can use that to our advantage and put our brain to work for us rather than allowing it to boss us around. As you spend time supporting the younger parts of yourself through painful experiences that took place, those memories will begin to lose their intensity and will no longer cause the same level of hurt that they once did. You may also find that your perspective on challenging moments starts to broaden, enabling you to recognize more aspects and elements of your childhood experiences that you weren't previously as aware of. That's because your memory is no longer so locked onto the thing that caused you pain, which enables your focus to shift back to include other details that couldn't be noticed before. It's like the zoom lens on a camera. When a situation has become stored away as a painful event, the event itself is the entirety of the memory. One weekend when my boys were little, we took them to a lodge with an indoor water park several hours away. We brought our bags up to the room, went downstairs to the water park for a bit, and then headed back up to get ready for dinner. Well, we stepped onto the elevator with a little boy who was gleefully playing with some type of squishy toy that he must have just won at the video arcade. As the elevator doors closed, the boy put the toy in between them, presumably to see what would happen. I figure he expected the toy to ride on up with us. But the elevator went up and the toy did not, and it eventually disappeared past the floor beneath us. Now, the boy looked a little surprised at first, then briefly disappointed, but seemed to shrug it off by the time he got to his floor. But not my son. For at least the next hour, he asked, "Mom, why did the boy do that?" And he went on and on about what had happened and how badly the boy must be feeling. All I could think was, well, there goes the weekend, as I imagined that this incident would end up being the only thing my son would remember about the entire trip. Clearly, that's not the kind of memories I had hoped to create, but that is exactly how trauma works. And by the way, almost 20 years later, I just recently asked him if he remembers the incident. He described it in perfect detail and confirmed that it's the only thing he remembers from that family outing. So, as difficult emotions from past experiences are tended to, the mind can zoom out to take in more of the scene, allowing for a bigger picture of that time in your life. That helps revise that crappy photo album in the brain. When we've processed painful feelings, we can discard the snapshots that we've held on to as evidence of our inadequacy and unworthiness. And unlike an actual photo album, we don't actually have to revisit and reprocess every single event that's been held onto as a painful memory. Tending to sadness about one experience can bring healing to sadness from others. Anyone who has gone through the loss of a loved one or a special pet knows that there's an intensity of emotion that transcends that specific experience because we are grieving everyone and everything that we have ever lost. So, whatever emotion is triggered in the present moment taps into all of the times that we had that feeling before, whether it's sadness, anger, fear, insecurity, guilt, shame, embarrassment, inadequacy, or hurt feelings that comes to our awareness. Providing comfort and compassion in response to those emotions can also soothe them for other times that we felt that way. And remember, your brain will always reveal what still needs to be healed. When we do the work to heal the pain that is attached to our childhood memories, those events and experiences no longer define us the way they previously had in our minds. We stop being the boy who threw up in gym class, or the girl who cried during the class play, or the kid who didn't get asked to the prom. By opening the door to your past through the daily practice of connecting to yourself as a child and healing and releasing painful memories that resurface, it won't feel as scary to reflect on your earlier life because there won't be so much hurt attached to it anymore. You will likely find that more neutral and even pleasant memories emerge, not just during your daily practice, but throughout the day as well. These can feel like gifts and enjoyable surprises, kind of like when a child comes to a parent to show them a special picture that they drew. When this happens, we start to realize that our childhood is much greater than the sum of the painful experiences we had. And as we continue to discard what we once held on to as evidence of our shortcomings and inadequacies, we will be pleasantly surprised to discover many examples of our competence and worthiness. As those types of memories make themselves known to you, I encourage you to spend some time with them. Try to connect to those emotional experiences and let yourself relive and enjoy the happy, peaceful, excited, proud, joyful, carefree moments that you had. Those can create a new panorama of who you were as a child. Eventually, you can update that photo album, filling it with snapshots of some of the enjoyable and fun and loved and loving times in your life. When we are feeling content and at peace, that is when we are closest to what is most natural and true for us. Every child comes into this world ready to love and be loved and prepared to experience laughter and joy and closeness and connection. Inside of each one of us, there is still that child wanting to be unburdened from anything and everything that is not in line with that truth. In fact, when a difficult memory arises and you're trying to comfort the younger you who went through that experience, you can even say to that child, "Let me take that from you. You don't need to hold it anymore." And who is the child that you will rediscover? Well, the specifics of that will be different for everyone, of course, but you will find elements of playfulness and enthusiasm, creativity and wonder, imagination, exploration. Really immerse yourself in those experiences because they will remind you of who you truly are. I would encourage you to write down these newly recovered pieces of information about yourself. What were your favorites? Toys to play with, foods to eat, shows to watch, music to listen to, books to read. I need only hear the words Nancy Drew to be flooded with all kinds of wonderful memories of reading those mysteries. What funny stories or whimsical moments about yourself do you recall? Do you remember picking dandelions, blowing bubbles, playing tag, rolling in the grass, carving pumpkins, riding a merry-go-round, going sledding, building a sandcastle? Let yourself reminisce about and revel in all of the enjoyable events and experiences that are revealed to you. These are the buried treasure that you've enabled yourself to discover through the work that you're doing to free yourself from painful memories. Can you greet that younger version of yourself with affection and appreciation for those wonderful qualities and characteristics that you are recalling? Can you say thank you for the accomplishments and experiences? Can you say, "I like that about you"? And other positive statements? Can you imagine you're putting your arms around that little child and saying, "I really love you"? I recently came across my baby book and I remembered how much I used to enjoy looking through it to see what my mother had written about me as an infant. Children love to hear stories about themselves and the cute, endearing things they did when they were younger. It makes them feel special to hear the pride or affection or amusement in their parent's voice as the story is being told. So, as you acquire a collection of enjoyable memories about yourself as a child, consider compiling those into a story about who you were, essentially an all about me. Structure it in whatever way resonates with you, but try to write it like a children's book would be written. You might even start with, once upon a time, there was a little boy or girl named, maybe include some actual photos from your childhood. Whatever format works for you, take your time with it. You may find yourself wanting to add to it as other memories come to mind. This is a way to recognize and honor the child that you were. And who better to celebrate that little person than you? After all, if it weren't for that child, where would you be now? Take care. I'll see you next week.